Fruitful Living with Sissel Anderson. Here on Morning Joy, where truth matters.
Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and we're getting a full report from the Eucharistic Congress from Sissel Anderson on fruitful living. Good morning, Sissel.
Good morning, Keith. I like the full report thing. It makes you sound really official.
It is. Well, hey, it's official because you were able to make it on over to the Congress and give us kind of, the laydown of what occurred. Now, it was a huge event, obviously. What was it? Over 50,000 Catholics just congregated in one location at one point. It was incredible to see.
Yeah, it was really crazy to be a part of, too. My siblings and I had talked about going, and, it's one of those things where you're like, oh, maybe not. But then you're thinking about it. This was the first, National Eucharistic Congress in America in 83 years. And I thought, well, I don't know when the next one's going to be, so I should probably try to participate in this one. And it was really cool to be part of this legacy of Eucharistic Congresses in America. It was crazy. I think at some points it was up to 60,000 people. Wow. I think the Eucharistic procession was even more. At least it felt like even more. But yeah, it was something really beautiful. I was telling Dave that I didn't know what I was expecting going into it. I think I kind of was just like, oh, let me just go and see what's happening. But it was really a beautiful experience, just from the way that they had the different talks and the different breakout sessions. Every evening there was what they consider like the revival sessions, where they would have a couple of keynote speakers, a testimony, and then it would always end with a large Eucharistic just prayer time, but also they would process around the stadium. It's a huge facility. Obviously, it's Lucas Oil Stadium. That's where the Colts play. It's an NFL stadium, so it was really wild to be in there, but be able to have that, even still have that reverence to our Lord. Everyone did a really good job of helping each other to kind of keep that reverence, especially during the adoration periods. Yeah. But yeah, it was just really beautiful. And honestly, one of my favorite things to see was that for every Mass that we did, just the amount of seminarians, priests, and deacons and bishops that were present there, it looks like they're coming out of the tunnel, right, from below. And it looks like they're just generating out of it. And it took 30 minutes, Keith, 30 minutes for everyone to get into their seats.
Wow.
For pressing in. And it was really cool. And you were talking earlier about the Eastern liturgies. They had a Syro-Malabar Mass on Saturday morning that almost everyone participated in, and that was super cool to be able to do as well.
Quick question on that. So obviously, different rites within our church, there's sometimes subtle differences and sometimes there are glaring differences, like, oh, wow, this is different. So what was kind of the stark contrast that you saw within that Eastern rite?
Yeah, there's a few different things. Their Eucharistic prayers are a little bit different. Some of the way they do things, there's a lot more, how do I put this? I'm trying to think, because I've gone to a Maronite church quite a bit, Maronite Catholic church, and it had a lot of similarities to this one. And there's just a lot more chanting of verses, and there's a few more prayers that are being said. They also generally are, I noticed in this one in particular, there was a lot more ad orientem for different Mass parts where the priest is facing Jesus and not us. And so those are some of the things. One thing that will always trip people up is the way that they do the sign of peace, which my friends and I were so proud because they had a description in the hand, they had a description in the Magnificat. They actually had a special Magnificat just for this event. Wow. And it was saying something like, they were trying to describe how it's done, but it's a very particular way where you put your hands over the other person's hands and you pass it down your row. And my friends and I were like, we know how to do this. So it was really cool.
Interesting. Wow. Now, I know from the Byzantine rite that the way that the Eucharist is given is usually on a spoon. I don't know if that's the same in this particular rite, but how was that? How was that?
What I'm not sure of is I know that they did adjust a few things for this particular Mass with all these people, especially since they had a lot of people helping them with the Mass that do not regularly, help with this kind of Mass. So I know for Maronite, they do intinction, so they dip the body into the blood. I don't know if that's what they normally would do, but we were in a stadium of 60,000 people, and that was already, I think, a little bit of a process for them. They did a very good job of like organizing communion, but they had, they would just like deploy priests and seminarians out to different areas. But I'm not sure if they normally do, actually.
Yeah, and then there was some incredible pictures that I've seen that are kind of floating around social media. I wasn't able to catch live stream all of the events and whatnot, but one that I saw in particular, and I don't know if you were there when it happened or if you saw it. It was a picture during adoration, and it was at an angle where there was a beam of sunlight like shining right down on the monstrance. Did you see that?
I did see that picture. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if I was there or not, because there was a lot but because I don't know what the angle I was sitting at, if I saw all the things, but it was really beautiful. They would usually, when they're doing the Eucharistic procession inside of the stadium, they would have like a light following it, so it was always like just like really highlighted. Everything else was dark, and it was awesome. So,
are there any moments that were maybe similar to that of like wow, where you were just taken back?
Yeah, honestly, there's a couple moments. The closing mass probably had the most people for one of the masses, and they had the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra playing, and they had this couple that was doing music for the whole weekend, actually from Dallas, Dave and Lauren Moore. We've given away their music here on the GRN before. They're really talented, and they did a very amazing job of keeping the reverence of the Mass during, even in this big stadium where there's a lot of distractions for us. Yeah. And just 60,000 people or so singing "Oh God, Beyond All Praising" with the symphony was pretty fantastic. There were some really beautiful moments, but also the Eucharistic procession through downtown Indianapolis. The way they had it done is that there was basically a mile walk that was going to happen, and they asked everyone to not all crowd at the beginning and to instead line the path for Jesus all the way down to where we were ending up. But they said, don't let Jesus ever have a place where there's no one there, which I don't think was going to be a problem because there's so many people. And then the way that they did it is they organized it by they had a crucifix at the beginning, they had some Knights of Columbus, and then they had all the different religious sisters, all the different orders. And each of them, as they would go past you, were singing different songs, and you could participate with their song as they went past you. And then it was the religious brothers. And then it was the seminarians, the deacons, the priests, and the bishops, and then the archbishops and a couple cardinals as well. And then Jesus came. And I thought it was really cool because, first off, it was just a really inspiring thing for vocations. But it also was I don't know, it's just such a powerful witness. My friends and I were very close to a group of Protestants that were there, and we're like, you actually believe that's Jesus? And we're like, yeah, we really do. And then ended up, some people actually got into a very long, hour-long conversation about that.
Wow, that's very interesting. Now you're all listening to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and we're talking with Sissel Anderson on our Fruitful Living segment, all about kind of a full report on the Eucharistic Congress, which ended this last Sunday, a huge event. And Sissel was actually there, and she's kind of giving us kind of like a play-by-play. But so yeah, there was so much going on. Were there any breakout sessions that you were able to attend?
Yeah, there's a couple that I went to. One I really, really enjoyed was a couple from Benedictine. Of course, now off the top of my head, I don't remember their name, but they're very well known at Benedictine. The husband is a professor at the college, and the wife gives a lot of talks and stuff like that. And they did a tag team talk, and they were talking a lot about very practical ways to build relationships, marriage, and then also just in general your faith life. And they were just both very fun and genuine. And then there also was a specific one, a breakout for people who work in ministry or volunteer in ministry, and that one was really cool too. That one had Curtis Martin, founder of Focus, was speaking at that one, and a few other speakers as well. And that one was cool because it was a room full of, Curtis asked at the beginning, who here volunteers or works in a church, and you just see the sea of hands. They say at its breakout session, it's still so many people in a big convention center room, and those were really inspiring and just gave you a lot of little things to just think about. And so a lot of people that went to this conference are going to go home really on fire for whatever work that they do in parishes.
Yeah, I was just kind of looking at the list of all like the breakout sessions, and I'm like kind of relieved that I didn't have to make the choice of choosing between, you know, all these great people that were speaking, because that would have given me like this, not decision fatigue, but like deer in a headlight situation.
Yeah, there were so many options, and honestly, like there was no way you could do everything. And on top of it, there was perpetual adoration happening across the street. There was a parish like right across the street, St. John's, and that was really, really fantastic to be able to have that opportunity. And then on top of it, you're just trying to, after you do one thing, you're trying to get through all the crowds to get to your next thing, and so you just spend a lot of time walking too.
Yeah, I believe it. But so you've experienced this. How do you think, I mean, was it a complete like transformation of your life, or do you see this as being kind of like a transformation, or, you know, kind of a stepping point of a transformation for your own self and for others?
Yeah, I think it definitely is going to have a pretty big impact on me. Last week was just a very spirit-filled week because we had our GRN family retreat last week as well. So I was going from spiritual high to spiritual high, you know. It was really, it did definitely, I don't know, it just really challenged me on, especially like, you know, when we're talking to this group of Protestants, like, you know, do you actually believe this? And I'm like, yeah, I really do believe this. And just that very beautiful public witness of it, it was just something that made me just be like, I want to share this joy and this love that we have for the Eucharist even more. That was kind of one of the final things in the last homily for our final mass that a cardinal was talking about, and he was saying, like, you know, don't just hide this away. You need to share. That's selfish. Like, share it with everybody. And so it kind of just convicted me to have more of those conversations with people I know who, you know, don't believe in the real presence.
Yeah, I was just thinking while you were talking there, you know, you mentioned that there was a lot of priests and bishops there, and I'm curious. I'll be curious to see, because I think the next event is in 2033. The next Eucharistic
Year of Redemption.
National. Yeah, what was that?
Year of Redemption is what they're calling it, because it's 2,000 years after Jesus walked on earth.
Wow, that's very interesting. 2,000 years. So do you think that there's going to be a lot more vocations because of this?
I really do think so. It was beautiful to see the amount of seminarians and priests there, and I just know that there are going to be a lot of stories from that.
Love it. Thank you so much, Sissel, for joining us this morning on your Fruitful Living segment, giving us a breakdown of the National Eucharistic Congress. Now we can also catch you, as you are the producer of Back to the Father, every single Friday afternoon on YouTube at 1 p.m. Central. Also the host of Young and Present in Dallas. So thank you so much, Sissel. And that's the end of our first hour. Now, we understand you might be on your way to work. You might be going to be listening to the Holy Mass right now. If that's the case, please pray for us. But if this is us parting ways, God bless, obviously, and make it a joyful day. But if you're hanging with us, we're talking with Jordan Burke on the second hour, so you're not going to want to miss that. Coming up on Morning Joy, where truth matters.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.